Okay, so in the last video I did the retopology and UV unwrapping. So in this video we're going to start looking at baking the normal map and also painting the main diffuse texture. So let's get started. So I've already UV unwrapped the mesh in the previous video. So first thing I'm going to do is switch to Blender internal render, and then I'm going to go to UV editing mode here. I'm going to select all the UV islands by pressing A, and then I'm going to create a new image here, 2048 by 2048 pixels. I'm going to call it normal map bake, and now I've got a brand new pitch black 2048 by 2048 texture. So next thing, I'm going to switch to my high-res mesh, and I'm going to select it, and then I'm going to shift select my low-res mesh. So it looks like that in the viewport. And then here under bake settings, I'm going to select the settings for my normal bake. So just copy that if you want to do it this way as well. And I'm going to hit bake, and it should come out like this. So that looks pretty good. I'm going to press F3 on that image and save it in my textures folder, normal map _bake.png. And now I'm ready to begin actual texturing now that I have my normal map. So I'm going to create a new material. Remember, this is in Blender internal mode. I'm going to go to textured view, and I'm going to switch the shading mode to GLSL. Let me just hide the camera and the lights, so those don't get in the way. Okay, now I'm ready to begin. I'm just going to set my specular level a little bit lower and make the model a little less bright. And I'm adding a new texture, and I'm going to add in my normal map. And then under the influence settings, I'm going to enable normal and disable color mode. And now under image sampling, I'm enabling the normal map. So now you can see in the viewport the normal map is showing up on the model. So now I'm going to start painting the actual diffuse texture. Going into texture paint mode, and if I start painting right now, it'll start actually painting on the normal map because I've got that enabled. So I have to add a new texture, and you'll see it opens a new slot there on the right hand side. And then here in the image editor, I'm going to create a new texture, and I'm going to make it 4096 by 4096 pixels. I'm going to call it diffuse, skin diffuse, and I'm going to also quickly hit F3 and save it as skin diffuse _1.png. So now I've got a skin diffuse texture, and if I switch to it in texture paint mode, you can see the model is now completely black. And I can start adding in a skin-like color. So I'm setting the paint mode to fill here. Remember, this is in texturing mode. So now I've just clicked on the model and filled the texture with a skin color. So this is the sort of base color thing that I'm going to start painting on the model. You'll see in the middle example here, I just got this from DeviantArt, I believe it was. Unfortunately, I'm not sure who created this, but it's very helpful in illustrating the different areas of the skin colors. So skin obviously isn't just one uniform color. It is like lots of different colors subtly blending together. So on the left hand side there, you can see just a one-tone skin color, and it looks a bit dull and not very realistic. In the middle, we've got these very bright colors to illustrate which areas of the face have different sort of colors. And on the right hand side, you can see what it looks like if you sort of keep that in mind and sort of fade them out a little bit with the skin color showing through. So it looks a lot more natural. And I'll put this image in the description, a link to this image in the description of this video. So this is very useful to keep in mind, and this is generally how I like to start painting my skin diffuse setups. So the first thing I'm going to do is going to switch to the text draw brush, and I'm taking a subtle blue color here, taking the strength down a little bit and modifying the curve like so. So it's got a very soft, transparent blue sort of color, and I'm going to start adding in on the chin here, kind of like that reference I just showed you. So very, very light and subtle, but still more bold than you would normally see. So it's kind of more exaggerated, if you know what I'm saying. This will help me paint the actual skin colors later on. So I like to do it a little bit more exaggerated than normal. Pretty subtle, but more exaggerated than what you'd naturally see. So a little bit of red on the cheeks there, and fading it out a little bit, and I'm constantly checking my reference image as well. So adding in some yellow on the cheekbones and around the nose there, a little bit more red as well. Again, just using a very soft, smooth sort of brush to get this started. A little bit more blue, and adding in some more orange type colors here on the nose and around the eyes area. And here I'm switching to flat shading mode, or multi-texture mode there on the right hand side, so I can see the flat colors as they really are without any shading. It's very helpful. So I'm keeping the transitions between the different colors as smooth as possible. So this is all very straightforward right now. Pretty much just blue on the chin area. Obviously this is for a male character. Female character wouldn't have nearly this much blue on the chin areas. It would still be kind of like this, but far more subtle. So a little bit more red on the nose there, and switching back to GLSL mode, and now I'm starting to add a little bit of yellow on the forehead there. So again, keeping it subtle, but not too subtle that you can't see it. Obviously there's no skin that actually looks like this in real life. I'm just marking out, it's sort of a way of marking out the areas where you want to paint different colors. So later I'm going to come over this with a more skin color type of pores brush and sort of blend it all in, and it ends up looking a little bit more natural. A little bit more yellow on the top there, and checking my reference image all the time. More blue on the skull here, a very light sort of blue, almost grey. It looks kind of grey when combined with all those yellows and so on. So here I'm starting to paint a little bit of red on the ears. They generally have more red because the skin is thinner there and you see through it a lot more, so you can see the blood vessels underneath the skin and so on. So that's the idea anyway. By the way, if you press S on if you hold your cursor over any color on the mesh and just press S, it will act like a eyedropper tool and it will sample that color. So if you need a color real quick, just hover over it in the viewport and press S, and it will select that color for you. Just finishing up the back end of the ear here. Lots of red in the ears. So I guess now I'm ready to start painting a little bit around the eyes here. So first of all, I'm starting with a pretty bright blue sort of color on the lower end of the eye there, lower eyelid, and more reddish sort of colors on top, with a little bit of blue mixed in as well. And obviously the lips here, use quite a lot of red. And at this point it looks pretty weird. I mean, it looks like some kind of sick clown thing, I don't know. But again, this is just mostly just to mark out the different areas of the face and what you have to keep in mind. Later on I'm just going to overlay some skin colors and some pore details, and it'll start looking a little bit more natural. Just adding in some reddish here on the neck. And on the back of the neck here, and on the head, a little bit more blue. So this is pretty much trial and error as well, depending on what kind of character you have. For a male character, this is how I generally like to start it off. With a female character, same thing, but a little more subtle. So here I'm just starting to fill in some more skin colors over the top of this, so it's kind of muting out those saturated colors, kind of muting them out a little bit, and they're still there, you can still see them, but they're more they're starting to look a little bit more natural now. So I'm just experimenting with different fills here to try and get a nice combination. Also notice that I'm using different strengths and also different blend modes. So in the end, I think I kind of did a sort of a mix between the lots of them. And just to find something rather natural looking and not too over the top. So it looks pretty pale right now. But now I can start actually adding in the actual details. I'm just fine-tuning a little bit around the mouth here. And painting is, skin painting is, well, any sort of painting really, I imagine it's just trial and error, a lot of it. So you go over what you've already done several times to sort of try and get something that works. I'm just adding in a few spots of color where I think it needs more color. Just bringing back some of the color that I kind of washed out a bit here and there, selectively saturating it here and there. Okay, so now I'm adding a texture mask to my brush. So you can see here on the right hand side I've switched to the brush mask section in the texturing panel, and I'm navigating to my pores brush. So I've got a couple of pore brushes here, but I'm going to use this one for now. And now I've started here with a very strong sort of red brush for the pores, and I'm just setting the settings here on the left hand side, playing around with the settings here to get a nice even distribution of the pores here. So I've switched back to shaded mode and started playing around with with some red pores here on the cheeks. You can see I'm constantly playing with the strength setting and also the colors. But in general, at this point, you want to start adding some red pores. So obviously, I'll make this pores brush. These brushes, I made them myself a while ago, and I'll definitely make them available for you guys. I'll put a link in the description so that you can download them and try them out for yourself. But you can make your own as well. Just make a black and white map in any image editor, and you're good to go. So in general, this is pretty straightforward. You start adding in some darker reddish pores here, and then later on you go over that again with some lighter skin color pores, and just keep blending them in and blending them in until it starts looking like skin. You don't want to lose the underlying colors that you've already painted. You want to sort of keep them there. So it's good to paint in a way that respects the underlying colors, but you do want to mute them out a little bit here and there, otherwise it ends up looking a bit unnatural. So for the most part, I'm just painting red pores here and there. Also remember to disable symmetry when you approach the center part of the face, because obviously you don't want any symmetrical details to ruin the effect. So whenever I approach the center of the face, I want to disable symmetry. Also, setting the mask mapping to random is a good way of getting some more randomness into the alpha, the texture mask. Here I'm starting to add some lighter skin color pores over the red pores that I've already painted. And at this point it's looking a bit weird, a bit pale and unnatural, but once you sort of render this along with subsurface scattering and all that other stuff in cycles, it will start looking like actual skin, hopefully. And from here on, it's just pretty much going over the same skin area again and again, adding more and more pores, more details, more color variations. Just remember to keep it quite subtle. Again, depending on what kind of character you've got. My character, again, is stylized, so I don't want the skin to look full of blemishes, and I don't want it to look too realistic either. That's why I'm using, for the most part, I'm just using one sort of pores brush. If I were doing realistic skin, I would be using probably several different pores brushes for any section of skin. So it's all about what kind of character you have. Is it stylized? Is it very realistic? And so on. If you do a very realistic character, another thing you're probably going to be doing is veins. So in the same way I'm painting pores here with a texture mask, I would make a texture mask for some tiny little veins that I would also, and blood vessels and so on, that I would also paint very, very subtly on the surface of the skin. But in this case, I don't believe I did it because, again, stylized character, not really necessary. So notice how I'm constantly changing the color depending on where in the face I'm working. I'm going lighter and darker, different shades of skin tones, different shades of red, even a little bit of blue. Depends. You have to sort of just eyeball it and decide for yourself what you're wanting there. Just keep in mind those underlying colors that you painted. So you can see the bottom part of the nose is pale, while the top part of the nose is more red. So it's like he gets more sun on the top part of his nose. enable symmetry again, just to work on the eyes here, adding a little bit more red around the bottom part of the eyes there. I'm not sure if you can see how much you can see at this point in the recording because it's a bit compressed, and at this point things are getting quite subtle and I'm starting to get into the finer details here. Remember, this is only the skin texture that I'm painting, so the subsurface textures and the specular texture and the bump maps and so on, those are still coming. I'm going to paint the bump map to sort of enhance the normal map a little bit. So this skin shader is going to make use of a bump map and a normal map. Although technically I guess you could say they're both normal maps. So what I like to do is I like to paint a sort of a pores map in black and white, and I'll show you just in the next video. We'll be going over that, and then this black and white pores map will then be used to be converted into a normal map, a details normal map in cycles. So that way I get to control the strength of the pores and so on. But again, that's for another video. So at this point I'm just working on the main diffuse map. I'm just painting over this blue area a bit here on the chin to mute it out a little bit, because we don't want it to look too unnatural. Also adding a few more red pores here on the neck. And you'll notice that my brush size is not very large, so you want to keep the pores pretty small, because obviously you're painting from a texture mask. So if you make the brush size too large, then things look really weird. You have to experiment a little bit and find a good size that looks believable. So very subtle work here now. I believe in the final artwork the neck area didn't have enough details, so I might have been better to add a little bit more bold coloring here on the neck. But either way, you get the idea. Also notice, for the most part I'm working in flat shaded mode at this point. So now and again I'll just use the shaded mode a little bit to kind of preview what it's looking like. But flat shaded mode is a lot better for the actual painting work, because you get an accurate depiction of the colors. Here I'm using a large soft brush to add a little bit more red on the back of the neck. And I think at this point it's pretty much done. Just a few more tweaks here and there, just a few subtle improvements, because you gotta remember the subsurface scattering map that I'm going to be painting in the next video is also quite important for the final look. So this is just a small part of all the textures that have to be done still. But that's it, that's the main diffuse pretty much done. We'll be painting a few more details on top of this in the next video, but this is what I like to call the base diffuse. And here I'm just saving it out. And that's it. Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you in the next video where we'll go over the finer points of some more texturing and so on. See you next time.